Guys, it's me. I'm back.
What's up, party people?
We're like, Mads, come on.
All right, this show is taking a turn for the. What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Monster Bass Live. We got a great show for you. It's probably my favorite time of year. It's the Z-Man takeover. You've been waiting for it since last January, and it's finally here. And we've got none other than Daniel Nussbaum, President and CEO of Z-Man, on the show as a guest today. And so we're going to have a lot of good things going on. But first, you know, we've been gone for a few weeks. I missed you guys. It's been a crazy day. I don't know if you guys are into sports or not, but if you just go on to ESPN, everybody's gone. Saban retired. Pete Carroll's out. Kawhi Leonard gets $153 million over 3 years. Defensive coordinator in New York is getting angry, and there's just tons and tons of news today. So it's really exciting from a sports standpoint. So I'm excited to watch SportsCenter tonight. But as you know, we're not here to talk about SportsCenter. We're here to talk about fishing, and my goal is to help you crush your personal best this year. And I'd like to celebrate a few people that have sent me in some pictures. And so, you know, if you want to send in your PB, I want to celebrate you. So you can head over to monsterbass.com/PB, upload your pics to the trophy room, because we want each and every one of you to be in the trophy room so that we can share that with the world and celebrate you and your catches. So let me, Fixie, if you wouldn't mind putting it up on the screen. All right, I'd like to congratulate Matt Brown on his PB, 7 pounds, 8 ounces out of Oklahoma. He caught it on a glide bait. Thip Fay, 4 pounds, 13 ounces on a Z-Man finesse bullet with a 6 cents prawn. Interesting. All right, and Jeremy Ellington, 8 pounds, 4 ounces, Savage Gear 7-inch line through. And Brian Adkins, 4 pounds, 3 ounces, caught it on a topwater bait. And last but not least, Teresa Kale, 6 pounds, 3 ounces on a black lizard soft plastic. There you have it. So congratulations to each and every one of you on your PB. It's the start of a new season, and I hope your goal is to get out there more often, you know, because let's face it, that's the key to crushing your PB, and that's what it takes. The more lines you wet, the better your chances. So, like I mentioned, it's a new year, and with that means the end of the golden tickets. It's the end of an era for the golden tickets, but don't you worry. We're still giving away stuff every episode, and you can win the chat, because Raphie loves to talk with you guys. So someone's going to win the chat. Someone might beat Chris. We'll find a way to give something away, but don't you worry about it. So let's jump right into the show. I don't want to waste any time, because, like I said, this is my favorite time of the year. It's the Z-Man takeover, and we look forward to it. We're big fans of Z-Man. They're one of the most innovative companies out there in the sport of fishing. And, you know, we hear that every year. We hear that when we go to ICAST. Oh, it's a game changer, right? And I look at it, and it's a Senko with, I don't know, some more salt. But very rarely do you find a company that consistently puts out new things that are innovative and changing the way that, you know, our sport is. And so we're lucky to have the opportunity to partner with Z-Man on this takeover box. You know, they were one of the first companies that bought into what we were doing, and, you know, how we're building a company, and how we wanted to make sure that we sent you the right baits for the places you like to fish. Because at the end of the day, let's face it, right? We're not sending the same baits to the guy in Michigan as we are to Florida, and that's really important. So let's not waste any time. I'd love to get all the guys on the show, and let's get started. How you guys doing?
It's good to be here. Super excited.
Excellent. Daniel, how are you, sir?
Doing great.
Excellent.
Doing great. Greetings from South Carolina.
Nice. And Raphie, you just got back. How are you, man?
Yeah, you know I'm doing great. Greetings from across the room, Rick.
Yeah. Good stuff. Good stuff. So, you know, Daniel, you've been on the show before, and usually we just jump right in. We talk about products, but I'd love to maybe spend a little bit of time and learning a little more about your background and your journey. And can you share us a little bit about like what led you to your current role and how'd you start working for Z-Man?
Yeah, to be honest with you, Rick, I got really, really lucky. Right place at the right time. I've loved fishing my entire life. I started fishing when I was a little kid. My parents didn't fish, but I was just always obsessed with it. It was always what I was passionate about, but I never thought I'd end up in the fishing industry. I thought about studying marine biology. I did study marine biology in college and thought about doing something with that and decided against that and ended up going to law school and being a lawyer. The reason why I did that is so I could move back to home to Charleston, South Carolina and buy a boat and fish. I mean, I thought that was like the easiest route to having a nice boat and a house and all that, being able to fish a bunch. And I did. I mean, I was a lawyer for 3 years and bought a 24-foot boat and did a bunch of offshore fishing, but I hated every second of it. And when I was like 26 years old, I quit being a lawyer and went to work in a tackle shop.
So can I, and Daniel, I got to interrupt you. I got to ask, like, this is a setup question. I told Rick, I have 6 kids. I have a son that's getting his MBA. I always strive to be a pretty good parent. What do I say to my son to properly support him? What did your parents have to say? Like, hey, I'm quitting law. I'm quitting my practice. I'm going to go work at a tackle shop. What was that like? Like, what was that like dropping a bomb in the family? Like, tell me about that.
I mean, my parents supported it 100%. I mean, by that time I was, on my own, had a house, they had kind of pushed me towards going to law school, just doing something that, they thought would be rewarding and satisfying and all that. But they saw how unhappy I was. I mean, I was pretty miserable. I mean, when you're a lawyer, I did litigation, defending people in lawsuits, and you're dealing with people at their worst, right? Nobody ever wants to be dealing with a lawyer. So I was just miserable. I stuck it out for 3 years, but it just got to the point where I just had to do something different. And that's why I went to work at a shop called the Charleston Angler right here in town. I just got married 6 months ago. I wasn't as worried about what my parents were going to say as I was what my wife was going to say. She thought she married a lawyer, and instead she was marrying a bum that worked in a tackle shop. But I told her I'd do it for 2 years and then figure out what I was going to do when I grew up. And that's what I did. And, it was just a matter of being in the right place at the right time with Z-Man. There was an opportunity. Z-Man was really, really small at the time. I mean, really, most of what we were doing was making and selling silicone skirts to other companies like Strike King and War Eagle. And we were just kind of getting rolling with the chatterbait, our plastics. We had started making our ElaZtech soft plastics, but nobody had really heard of them yet. We weren't really selling any. So it was a really small company. I think, we had like 20 employees at the time when I joined on in like manufacturing, warehouse, everything. So, it's just right place at the right time. And they kind of gave me the reins, and that was a little bit over. It was 15 years in October, actually.
Wow.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
What are some of the most, rewarding aspects and some of the most challenging aspects of your job?
Well, without a doubt, the most rewarding part is being involved in, designing a bait, manufacturing a bait, and, seeing somebody catch a big fish on it, see somebody catch their PB on it, and hearing those stories. That's why I love what I do. Is you hear those stories all the time. I mean, we go to the Bassmaster Classic every year, and you get a dozen kids that come up to you showing you pictures on their phone, and for me, that's what it's all about. Yeah, I mean, and really until a year and a half ago, I was doing most of the product development stuff myself, and that's what really got me, fired up.
That's cool.
So that's the most rewarding part. I mean, the most challenging part, there's, it seems like as the company's grown, there are more and more challenges, and it's just every day is something different. everything kind of flows uphill. So it might be some kind of disagreement with employees, or it might be an issue with, a mold that we're using or something like
Yeah.
that. It's just no shortage of challenges, but that's what keeps it fun, and that's what keeps it interesting.
Huh.
Yeah, I would say that's part of being the fisherman is like figuring out that puzzle and fixing the things and being specific. Having that background of fishing, obviously applying that to business. That's probably why you're really good at what you do. What has been a product was your baby? I think that's a really neat thing that you talk about. I tied some flies, and you develop these things, and you go out and you use it, and you catch some fish with it. What has been the product that you feel like you had the most influence over and brought to market that has been that rewarding piece? What Z-Man product
Yeah.
that you maybe don't know that you did?
Honestly, yeah, the most rewarding thing hasn't even been one product. It's really a whole series, and that's the Ned rig. Bringing that to market. I mean, we really kind of pioneered the Ned rig. I mean, there were people before, we came out with our TRD and the finesse rooms that were cutting up worms and putting them on little jig heads. And I can't claim that was my idea. I mean, Ned himself was doing it, but for years before we did, just kind of latching onto that. I had a lot of help from some really really good anglers that kind of pushed me in that direction, but just kind of taking the leap. At the time, people were saying, these are little crappy baits. Bass guys are never going to buy this. Tournament guys are never going to use this stuff. And I mean, we heard no from over and over again from all the big guys, all the big customers, the Bass Pro Shops and the Walmarts and mom and pop's bait and tackle. It didn't matter. I mean, for the first year or two, everybody just, they kind of thought it was stupid. But you think about, I mean, I think about how many millions of, TRDs we've made in our plant in South Carolina, and how many millions and millions of fish have been caught using it. And to me, I mean, that's just like the ultimate. Is you think of all the joy and satisfaction that it's brought to so many people, or how many kids have caught their first fish on a Ned rig. I mean, it's such an easy bait to use. You just throw it out there and drag it on the bottom, or hop it a little bit, and you're going to catch something.
Yeah. That's my son. I have 5 boys, and one he's the baby of the family. He's 16. He actually took second place like 3 times at our local bass lake here. That's a little derby we do. And he never changed his bait. He always fished with the Ned. And I'm a total Ned defender, which is in the bass fishing world. There's all these people that think it's not cool now. The Ned rig catches fish, plain and simple, like you said. And you can go back to the science of, okay, fish chose. If you put a crawdad and then you took off the tentacles, you took off the pinchers, you took off the legs, that's the science behind it. I know I'm totally with you. And knowing that you had so much involvement in that, I mean, hats off to you, because that was going against what you think to catch the angler in the store is what a lot of people talk about. These things catch fish like crazy. So, I mean, cheers to you for bringing something that simply works. And that first fish, so simple. You put a Ned rig on, they work everywhere. And they work in saltwater as well as freshwater. So that's a pretty cool
we
bait
use them all the time here for redfish. I mean, it catches pretty much anything that swims, and that's what's kind of so neat about it. Is it's kind of like stranded on a desert island bait, I call it. If you need to eat, you have a Ned rig, you're going to catch something and be able to eat. It's just such a cool deal, and like you said, it doesn't really look like much, but it's kind of, I mean, everybody always says that you got to catch the fisherman, not the fish, or a fish has never bought a fishing lure, that sort of thing. But the whole Ned rig system is kind of proof of the opposite. That if you make something that really truly does work and is effective, people are going to buy it no matter what it looks like, even if it does look like a turd.
So I mean, being the turd, I brought him out. I just want to ask, who named the black one Yoga Pants? And did you get heat for that? Because that's one of my favorite names, and I used it. I love that bait, the black profile down deep fishing the Ned rig. Like, that was just kind of a funny thing that I was like, here's a company that used some humor in this. Who came up with the Yoga Pants name?
Yeah, so we try to use a little bit of humor. A lot of our color names, are a little bit humorous, or some of them are inside jokes that only we get. But Brian Latimer, I'm sure y'all are familiar with Brian.
Sure.
We've been working with Brian, gosh, I don't know, since he started fishing the FLW Tour years ago. And we've gotten to be friends. We, saltwater fish together a bunch, and, are always texting back and forth. And it was like, I think it was like a Friday night or something. And my phone rang at like 11 o'clock at night, which is really, kind of odd. I mean, I looked at the phone and it said, Brian Latimer on the caller ID. And I picked it up. I was like, Brian, is everything okay? I mean, what's going on? He said, I just thought of the best name ever, Yoga Pants. We gotta make a color called Yoga Pants.
That's so good. I love it.
That's actually where the name came from. Is it came from B-Lat, and
B-Lat gets credit.
Was this before or after? Was this before or after they were calling it the Big Turd as a nickname?
Well, that was the turd name came first, and people called the bait the turd because when they were taking our zinkers, which is our 5-inch stick bait, and cut it in half, and fishing there was a brown color called dirt, and everybody said it looks like a little turd, and we said, well, why don't we call it the turd? It'd be kind of funny. And then we thought about it, and it's like, well, Bass Pro and those guys, they're never going to sell a bait called the turd. So that's why we called it the TRD, kind of like one of those inside joke things. And if somebody asks what TRD stands for, we say it stands for the real deal, but everybody knows it's the turd.
I just love the fact that somebody's walking into a Bass Pro Shop saying, I'd like a big turd and yoga pants, please.
Yeah.
That's perfect. That's the best. No, it's so good.
We got, yeah.
Daniel, how would you describe Z-Man's approach or philosophy towards product development?
Yeah, well, we always try to do things differently. I mean, there are obviously some baits like, a paddle tail swim bait or something like that, or a stick bait like our zinkers that are kind of staples and that our pros want, anglers want, and they want them out of our material, our ElaZtech material, because the material is different. But I mean, we always try to do things a little bit differently, and I'd rather try to pioneer something and fail than just be a me too when it comes to everything. So, I mean, we've done some stuff that's pretty far out there, and my mantra when it comes to product development for a while was you just throw a bunch of stuff against the wall and see what sticks. And as long as it's a bunch of, unique and different stuff, you're not going to hit a home run every time. But if you do something different and make something that's really good that people really like, then you're going to be the first one in that category. So if you kind of look at, just the different, there's spinner baits and, paddle tail swim baits and all these skirted jigs. But there are actually like two complete categories that we've completely pioneered, the bladed jig and really Ned rig. I mean, you go to any tackle shop or, online retailer, and you see a whole section of those baits. And to me, that's the coolest thing. That's really where you can make an impact, not just with anglers, but in the fishing industry, is coming out with something that's, very different and unique. So we always try to do things a little bit differently than everyone else. And, I mean, you can see that. You take a look at the baits that we put in the box this month. I mean, that Hellraiser bait with the, crazy blade on the tail, and, cool bait, cool story behind it. And I'll be the first one to tell you it looks really weird, but, I think there's probably not a lot of companies that'll do something kind of that different and outside the box. So that's kind of where we try to be a little bit different.
Yeah. And obviously with innovation comes copycats. And so how many copycats do you see a week? I mean, you must send a lot of cease and desist letters.
Well, so with the chatterbait, I mean, we do have patents on those.
Yeah.
And it's really kind of, as the chatterbaits become more and more well-known, and as, other companies realize that we have a patent and we have a trademark on the shape of the blade and all that, it's really kind of died down a lot to where now it's, you might see 2 or 3 a month. But I mean, 10 years ago, gosh, it was like 5 a week.
Wow.
And we try to be really careful about how we handle those situations. I mean, most companies, they'll have a lawyer send a really official sounding and threatening cease and desist letter. Instead of doing that, I send an email personally or pick up the phone and call somebody and try to explain to them, and give them an opportunity to kind of, change their product or do the right thing. So it's a little bit different approach there. But certainly not one of the most fun parts of the job, though.
Yeah, I can imagine. What are some of the emerging trends that you're seeing in terms of fishing tackle, or in general within the sport?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I mean, I think the really obvious answer is forward-facing sonar, and how that's really changing
Uh-oh.
things. Uh-oh, I just hit a.
Oh
No,
no.
we had a whole show about it, and so many people were against it, fighting us on it, and I think we're all big fans. I went out with a friend, and it's phenomenal the feedback you get. Like the idea of
Yeah.
taking forward facing sonar and taking a Ned rig and showing that of how a fish prefers a Ned rig with no tentacles, and it's like, oh yeah, we got this new Ned that looks like a crawdad, which you guys have. It's like, no, you messed up the original Ned rig, and then to
Right.
be able to put those in front of a fish on forward facing sonar and prove live which one works better. That's the feedback that we don't all get to understand. And that's why I'm a huge fan of that understanding what we think is happening in a tank and then proving it in the wild live. That's incredible for you as a bait manufacturer to be able to get that feedback from anglers that understand that tool. That's got to be changing things pretty quick. So that's
Yeah,
pretty
it
awesome.
does, and even making baits that are more ideally suited for that technique. I mean, there's certain things that you want to, and I mean, personally, I mean, I don't use forward facing sonar a lot. It's not the kind of fishing that I like to do. I'm not a tournament guy, so it really doesn't matter much to me. But I mean, we're in the business of selling fishing lures, and you just look at the kind of some of the design characteristics of a product that's going to be aimed at that forward facing sonar technique. Something that's going to sink quickly, something that's going to sit horizontally and hold the depth, something that's going to show up really well. Something that you can work at the appropriate speeds, and I think that's really driving some. At first, I don't think it really drove much change in innovation. I mean, you saw a lot of ball jig heads and baits that looked like little flukes, but I think as it's becoming pretty clear that whole deal is here to stay. So I'm seeing a lot more innovation surrounding that. So I think that's one real trend. The other thing that we're seeing still is more of a transition to finessey kind of baits. I mean, not just Ned rig baits, but small swim baits, drop shot baits, things like that. Just fish are getting more and more pressured. Fortunately for all of us, there's more and more people fishing, but it does make the fish harder to catch. So that's
For sure.
another thing that we kind of see coming down the pipe.
For sure.
Yep.
For sure. Well, I'd like to take a moment before we get to our next question. I'd like to thank Liquid Death for keeping us hydrated during the show. Raphie, are you drinking Liquid Death today, or are you out?
Yes, no, I'm drinking LaCroix.
That doesn't make my sponsors very happy.
We were out of Dev. You drank through all the Dev.
I did. Well, it's great water. That's why I drink it. So, let's do this. I'd like to remind everybody that you too can win the chat, and Raphie will pick someone at the end, and we're gonna hook you up with one of this month's Z-Man boxes. And we're gonna talk about the contents of that box a little bit later. And then let's make sure that the phone lines are open. I'm gonna ask Daniel one more question, then we'll take a couple calls, and then we'll jump back in. So, Daniel, what's new for Z-Man in 2024?
We got a lot of good stuff coming down the pipe this year. Or really, some of it's already out, some of it's kind of in the works. But the thing that I'm probably the most excited about is our Chatterbait Elite Evo. It's a new chatterbait that we just launched. I mean, everybody knows that the jackhammer is the go-to. I mean, you look at what's won tournaments for the last 5 years, and the jackhammer showed up more than anything. But it's a $16 bait, and that's not for everybody. So we've taken a lot of the great features of the jackhammer, and the same kind of performance kind of aspects. Blade starts up quick, good hunting action, good components, really nice shape to the hook, hand tied skirts, and it's a sub $10 price point. So it's kind of, it's kind of like the Cadillac and the jackhammer's the Ferrari, is how I like to look at it. But if you're a guy like me that isn't fishing for $100,000, it probably makes sense to have that $9 chatterbait instead of the $16 one. So I think that's really cool, and we've gotten a good response to that. And we've got a great trailer for that called the Chatter Spike. That's kind of a pintail trailer. So those are two that we're really excited about. And then we've got a couple of really neat goby baits, a TRD goby, which is a 2.4-inch swim bait. And then another bait called the Gobius. That's a pre-rig kind of structure goby bait that, really great hookup ratio, super durable, comes through structure really well. So those are all baits that I'm personally excited about fishing this year.
Nice.
Yeah, those are good. Can I ask, when you guys are figuring out baits, do you guys ever do like a cost per catch comparison? Because you talk about the baits that are $16. We had some swim bait guys on that their baits are $300-400 up to $1,000, which we all know. I'm always considering that when I'm talking to people and friends that are just getting into fishing. When you talk about a chatterbait, do you have an assessment ever of how long that chatterbait lasts? Like non-break off, all these things aside, of course, fishing through cover, it changes. But do you have an estimate of how long that bait should last with how many catches it should produce?
Nothing formal. I mean, that's a tough, every catch is a little bit different. I mean, if you're hooking a pike or something that can tear up a bait or tear off a skirt, it's a lot different than a 6-inch bass, or a 10-pound bass is a lot different. We do some testing though. We do several types of testing. We do, just pull tests on like an Instron machine to demonstrate like the braking strength of the head to blade connection, or the line tie that's hooked to a blade, things like that. But a lot of it is just, giving the baits to our pros, let them fish the heck out of them and tell us whether it lasts. So it's very unscientific for us. Other companies may do it differently, but if our product testers and product development folks and pro staffers like a bait and think that it holds up well enough, that's usually good enough for us.
That's awesome. No, that's the feedback that I give people. It's like, you have a $16 bait. If I can get a decent fish for $1 a catch, you talk about soft plastics and what a bag of plastics costs versus the fish you catch. I think you're doing good with a bait that's $16. But like you say, to have a business that understands not everyone wants to shell that out, and to do your diligence to provide something at a better price point. I mean, cheers for you guys for doing that, because I think that helps people get into that bait and try it, and then maybe they want the higher price. So,
sure.
Congrats.
Yeah, and you can still buy an original chatterbait for $5.99, and honestly, you're probably gonna catch 90% of the fish that you catch with the jackhammer. So really, we try to have something at every price point, whether you're entry level, don't have a big budget, or you got $120,000 bass boat and fishing with a lot of money on the line, that kind of thing.
It's awesome.
Sure. Well, what do you say we go to the phone lines? I see we've got a couple people waiting. Raphie, why don't we take our first caller?
I think that's a great idea. I think this person is a first-time caller, but a former guest.
Really?
Yeah. Let's see if you can guess who he is.
Go ahead. Hello.
Uh-oh.
Hold on.
How about now?
Hello? All right, let's go to the next one.
No. It's not it's a Bluetooth issue, but I think we got you.
Okay, you got me?
Yeah, we got you.
We go. Where are you calling from, and what's your PB?
So, all right, well, I'm calling from Nixon, Missouri, and my personal best is 6.31 pounds.
I know who this is.
Caught on a finesse jig on the Finley River.
Is this Brandon?
You bet.
There you go.
Was it in or out of a helicopter?
Yes, man.
Right on. How you
I'm
doing?
actually working tonight.
All right. Well, thank you for your service.
Appreciate you, sir. I did have a question for Daniel, if he's got a second.
Yeah.
Sure thing.
All right. Well, good evening, sir. My name is Brandon Heinrichs. My current IG social media page is Dust Off Fishing, and it's great to get a chance to talk to you. and I appreciate you taking the time. My question is, do you think that you get more value from a business perspective out of content creators / influencers or professional anglers when it comes to sales, and why?
Well, the first part of that question is, my first answer is that I think professional anglers are basically influencers and content creators these days. I mean, that's what a good professional angler. I mean, pro staff, it doesn't mean professional staff, it means promotional staff. And if those guys are really doing their job, then they're doing all the same things that an influencer and content creator does. But I don't think that you can say that one is, better than the other, or we get more value out of one or the other, because they speak to different audiences. I mean, it's kind of like comparing a magazine ad. It's somebody different that's picking up the magazine than somebody that's browsing the web. So you're talking to different people, and I think it's important to cover the bases. I mean, we try to cater to I always say that I like to get the folks that are 15 years old and going to be fishing for the rest of their life using Z-Man stuff, because that's a customer for life. But a guy that follows the Bassmaster Elites, that subscribes to Bassmaster Magazine and Bass Times, and they might be 60 years old, but they've got a lot of disposable income. I mean, we sure do get a lot of mileage out of our Bassmaster Elite pros with those guys. So I think it's important to cover your bases, and it just both are valuable, both are necessary in this day and age, I think. Does that answer your question? Does that make sense?
I love that answer, actually. I know just one real small follow-up question. So I know that the fishing industry is going through some, I would say, changes after the COVID spike. How has that affected Z-Man, if it has at all? And what are you guys doing to try to kind of combat that?
Yeah, so it absolutely has. I mean, the last 3 years has been if you chart out, I was going to say it's been a roller coaster. If you look at the graph of our sales, it kind of looks like a roller coaster, up and then down and then kind of back up this past year. Really, from my perspective, you just got to throw out the last 3 years, and 2023 was kind of the first normal year that we've had in about 3 years in terms of the fishing industry. And now you got people, it's kind of back to like it was, where we're competing with people that are going to the movies and going to watch their kids play baseball and basketball, and kids playing baseball and basketball and all that kind of stuff. So 2021, 2022, everybody was fishing, everybody was buying anything they could get their hands on. We had to work hard in a lot of ways, but not in terms of attracting business and getting people to buy our stuff. We're back to having to work for it. So it's kind of changed our approach, and we're back to clawing and grabbing for every bit of business we can get, and really having to be creative with product development, marketing, and things like that. So it was just a weird 3 years, and it is a tough time in the industry, because managing inventory and production and things like that it was all really tough for the last few years. But now we're kind of back to baseline, if you ask me, which in my opinion is a good thing.
Yeah.
Still stressful, but not quite as hectic.
Well, hey, really appreciate your time. Great answers. Love your products. And gentlemen, I'll hang up now and listen offline. Thanks.
Good hearing from you, Brandon.
Appreciate you using our stuff. Good talking to you.
I didn't even have to hang up on him. He just dipped. Wow.
Well, he knows. He knows if he's not quick, you're going to hang up on
He's
him.
gone. Yeah. No, Raphie's quick on the trigger over there. I think, Daniel, that's a great point. And I think it's that thing is dealing with a lot of friends and online influencers and pros, and what a pro offers behind the scenes with product development, and knowing both have their livelihood built on fishing, but a pro more is they have to catch fish in different circumstances, and that opportunity to work with both, I'm sure you do. But the feedback you get from a professional that that has to have something with the bait, and I'm sure you work with a lot of pros. I mean, your pro staff is deep, and you have some great anglers that I'm sure you collaborate with, and that resource alone with the pro and supporting them in return, getting that feedback and bait development and product development. I'm sure, can you describe that? I'm sure you've had some stories and it probably go on for hours. What's that like working with the best in the business and the best anglers? I'm just going to say it, in the world. How cool is that for you? And what does that mean for Z-Man to be able to tap into that resource?
Oh yeah, I mean it's really humbling for me to be able to work with the guys. You know, some of them, I mean, I remember watching Luke Clausen, win the Forest Wood Cup and the Bassmaster Classic, and just kind of being in awe. And then, 10 years later, being on the phone with him, working on, a new product, or seeing David Walker on a Wheaties box, 15, 20 years ago or whenever it was. And then, texting back and forth with them about product ideas. But it is really cool. And like you said, Chris, I mean, those guys they're so dialed in, and they're so detail oriented. And honestly, I mean, I'm more of a casual angler, right? I mean, I get to go on a few cool trips every year for work. I try to fish for about 4 or 5 hours every week, on the weekend mornings, but I'm not as dialed in as those guys, and I don't know all the little details. And it's just crazy how granular they get. I mean, when it comes to stuff like colors, you know, hook sizes, balance, I mean, all the little details. I mean, that's value that you can only get from the guys that are doing it every day and are living and breathing it. So it is, I mean, honestly, that may be the coolest part of this whole gig, is to be able to work with those guys and just to learn from them. I mean, I can't tell you how much it's improved my fishing, is just getting to pick those guys' brains a little bit.
How lucky is that, going hanging out? I know, because I'm sure not everyone knows, you guys do a lot in the saltwater world. And I know, like, Flats Class and all these different guys that use your baits in the inshore world. And then I hear a lot of them talk about when you get these, and I'm going to call them tackle nerds, whatever you want to call them. It's so excited. Bass guys are so specific in their approach. And I think that's probably a neat thing that you could shed some light on, is bringing a bass angler to the coast and watching them pick apart a fishery, seeing it for the first time, putting the pieces together. Not to say one's better than the other, but that tactical information. And we break this down in Monster Bass a lot. It's like, we're so concerned of the way the skirt looks and the color and understanding how light changes and the displacement of the depths. We get so nerdy sometimes and go so far, but I think that's important to understand, especially from a bait manufacturer's viewpoint. What's that like, going and working with the bass guys versus the saltwater guys?
The bass guys, I mean, listen, we've got a lot of great saltwater guys that we work with too, but honestly, the bass guys are almost on a completely different level when it comes to, their fishing, the technique, the product knowledge. And I mostly saltwater fish. I mean, I live 10 minutes from the coast, 10 minutes from going to catch redfish, or an hour from going to catch bass. And I've been lucky enough to have, really, I think I've fished with probably taken 6 or 7 of our bass guys saltwater fishing down here, and to watch how they, pick apart a piece of water. They make 3 casts to 1 over a saltwater guy, just how meticulous they are with their rigging. It's been, really instructional for me, and kind of cool to see. I mean, I've got a flat skiff, you've probably seen it with a polling platform over the motor, where you get up and pole around and look for redfish in shallow water. I'd rather have, a Luke Clausen or a Stephen Browning on the front of my skiff than any saltwater guy I've ever met. I think that's just how dialed in those guys are.
No, I love hearing that. That's kind of the feedback that I've heard from a lot of people. And I know my bass fishing changed the way I fly fish, and just like you're saying, just picking it apart and applying all these little nuances, it really makes you a better angler across the board. So that's cool that Z-Man has that background. That's awesome.
Yeah. And just seeing the things that they see, when they're reading water, they're seeing fish that, that I don't see. Make the placement of the cast. I mean, you realize how important that stuff really is. When you see them do it, and you see them catch twice as many fish as somebody else on the boat, that sort of thing.
That's awesome.
So those guys are, I mean, they're really good at what they do. Yeah. I had no idea until I started getting to fish with them a little bit.
It's like when you golf with somebody and all of a sudden you realize, well, I'm not really that good, as good as I thought I was.
Yeah.
What, Raphie, who do we have on the line? Let's take a couple more calls.
Yeah, we got a bunch more calls. Let's go to this familiar voice.
Hello, caller.
Well, hello, Rick, Chris, Raphie, Daniel.
No, it's T-Rex.
Hello, T-Rex. Hello, Heartbreaker.
How are you guys doing?
Oh, yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Oh. It's all about the heartbreaking of love making.
Okay.
Wrong show. Wrong show.
Oh, damn. So, Daniel, I talked to you last year about the Willow Vibe, and I'm still using the Willow Vibe, and I absolutely love it. I fished the One Bass U.S. Open this year, and I actually used the Willow Vibe and had good success with it. When you go bass fishing throughout the years, if you could pick anything that Z-Man has made through the years of making baits for other people, making baits for yourself, anything, what's the one go-to you would use?
For any specific kind of bass fishing, or just my one go-to bait that I'd use?
Just bass fishing.
For just bass fishing, if I go out and just want to catch fish, I'm going to take our 4-inch hula stick, which is a kind of a Ned rig bait. It's actually the first Ned rig bait that we made before we even came out with the TRD. Before we came out with the Swimz jig heads, I'd take that 4-inch hula sticks. I'd stretch that bait out, get a little bit of salt out of it, limber it up a little bit, cut about 3/4 of an inch off the nose and put it on a little Swimz jig head. And when that thing hits the bottom, I mean, because you've stretched it, gotten some of the salt out there, you know, really limbered it up. It's so soft and that thing floats and it's just doing this. I mean, it'll catch pretty much anything. And I mean, you can fish it high, you know, put a lighter weight, you know, let it sink slow, fish it higher up in the water column, that sort of thing. And I'm kind of a finesse guy. I mean, I love smallmouth fishing. I love going up north, you know, fishing light line in the summertime and, you know, just catching a bunch of fish. Not even really the big ones, but that's a real, you know, numbers kind of bait right there. And it doesn't matter if you're, you know, up at Lake of the Woods catching smallmouth or on, you know, Lake Lanier 5 hours from here in Georgia catching spotted bass. It's just a fish catcher. And it catches everything, not just bass. So if you just want to catch bass, maybe it's not the best bait, but if you don't mind catching a walleye or something else every now and then, it's a great bait to throw.
All right, sounds good. Yeah, I'm still, you know, last year when I talked to you, I throw that Willow Vibe constantly, and I usually pair it up with the Z-Man red shad. And what I do is I clip the shad long ways at the ass end, so it almost looks like two pieces fluttering in the back. And since I've done that, man, it's really, really increased. I fished it at Clear Lake when I did the California Open, and man, I had great success there too in the tall grass. Grass was like anywhere from 3 to 5 foot tall in the water, and I'm just running in there weedless, just ripping it through that grass, just killing them.
Yeah, that Willow Vibe's an awesome bait, and I think that finesse shad is the best trailer. It's got that like whip-like tail. You know, it's just a really good profile for it. Yeah, that thing's a fish catcher, and you can burn that thing on top. You know, when they're schooling, a lot of the times I'll fish that really fast on top, and that blade will even break the surface a little bit, and it'll look just like, you know, a little bait fish skittering on top. Or you can kind of yo-yo it and fish it really deep. I mean, it's just a super versatile bait. I think a lot of people don't realize how versatile that thing is. I think a lot of people will after they get in their box this month, though.
Yeah, that's going to catch some fish for sure. I second. That's a great bait for sure. I love it.
I have bags full of that stuff, so I'm good. All right, well, I know there's going to be a lot of callers, so Raphie, congratulations on the new Bronco. It's beautiful, and thanks for letting me call in. We'll see you guys next time.
You got it.
All right.
Yeah, good talking to you again. Take
See
care.
you later, Heartbreaker.
You too, Daniel.
All right. Who's next?
So Daniel, can I before you hop to him, Daniel, he's dropping bombs over here with knowledge. the baits. How
Dropping
many baits
big
do you
turds.
recommend? I'm telling you, we got this big turd we're dropping. So to take this bait and to pre-stretch it and to open it up, and like you said, to get it to work properly and to basically get it to come to life. That's the key, I think, for this bait. Do you have to do that with all your products? I think that's this one piece is like we stack this box, and I want to be able to talk to our listeners, followers, and all these things through multiple channels. Is that recommended? Part one. Part two is getting the hook in them. Do you have any tips for people? Because I know some people heat up the hooks, you pull the hook on. That's been the two pieces of it, information. The baits, we could talk about floating and all that later. But first is, do we have to nurture them and flex them and get them ready? And then what's the best way to rig these things?
Yeah, so you don't have to do that. Some of our baits have salt in them and some of them don't. And people always ask, well, why do you put salt in some baits and not others? And there's a couple of reasons why you put salt in a bait. I mean, gives it a little bit of texture, more weight for casting. It makes it float not quite as much. And a lot of people think the salty taste helps, but so some of our baits have salt in them, some of them don't. For the baits with salt, I do like to stretch them because it limbers them up. It gives them that kind of spongy texture. And the only way that you can get that spongy texture is to put salt in them and then stretch the baits. You can rub them a little bit and get the salt out of them. It really limbers them up, gives them a bunch of action. And it's something I do with, any whether it's a Ned rig bait or like our scented jerk shads, which is great on a jig head or as a drop shot bait, and that's got salt in it. I like stretching that one out too. But our other baits, like our chatter spike, for instance, it's our new chatter bait trailer that's in the box this month. That one doesn't have salt, and for that kind of application where you're fishing it on the back of a chatter bait, it's really not critical that you and it's really not going to do anything if you stretch it out. It's really just those salted baits to just kind of open up some of those pores and cavities and give it a spongy feel that fish really hold on to and has more action. But as far as rigging the baits go, I kind of think of it a lot like it was probably about 20 years ago was maybe a little more than that was when braided line, super braid, like Power Pro or Spider Wire first came out. And when somebody, there's a learning curve with that stuff. The first time I got some Spider Wire, I tied my lure on and went and casted it out, and the knot slipped because I wasn't tying the right knot. Right, rigging ElaZtech is kind of the same way. There's kind of a learning curve. You have to do things a little bit differently. The one tip that it absolutely changes the way that you look at this stuff is with, a traditional soft plastic bait, you thread it onto a jig head and you push that bait up over the keepers, the nose of the bait. You just push it on there to get it over the keepers. Well, it doesn't work so well with ElaZtech. So what we recommend is taking the nose of the bait and stretching it and pulling. So you're actually taking the nose of the bait and pulling it way over that keeper and then letting it snap back on top of the keeper. And, if you do that, it resolves, 90% of the rigging issues that you have with our stuff on jig heads. I mean, it's really like the first time I did it or that somebody told me about that and I did it, it was like, the light bulb pops on over your head. So you do have to be a little bit more careful, kind of lining the baits up. They don't tear at all. So you got to get that hook, coming out right at the right point. But that stretch and pull trick is, if you're rigging a trailer on the back of a chatterbait, a swim bait on a jig head, I mean, it's it works wonders. It really does.
Yeah, no, that's you answered. That's the game changer, the pull versus the push. And that's, I'm with you with the salt, just having the salt. I think it's neat to have that in there and understand that gives it those voids, that gives it, I think to me, allows a bubble effect. If you pull the salt out and allows that Ned to stand a little more vertical. So lots of cool stuff with the bait. Again, that's back to that science, the art of fishing. I love that progression. Not all the baits are the same. It's specific. The little details, the more you learn, better you're going to fish. So thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, sure thing.
Raphie, what do you got?
I got someone
who
has called in a lot.
How many times?
In the past.
How many times?
113 total calls.
I know who it is.
Yeah. But we haven't spoken to him for a while.
I know who it is. Hello, Brendan.
Hey, what's going on, Brendan?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hello?
Hey, Brendan, how are you?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, Happy New Year.
Hey, Brendan.
Happy
How you
New
doing?
Year. I'm doing wonderful. How are you guys?
Doing
I'm
great.
doing great.
We're good.
Awesome. I'm glad to be here tonight with y'all.
I'm glad you're here tonight
been a
with
while.
us. Who is this?
So, Daniel, it's awesome to talk to you. It's a pleasure meeting you at ICAST, and hopefully
It was really
see
great
you there
meeting you at
in
ICAST.
2024 as well.
That was cool. Always good to put
Yeah,
a
and if you're ever
face
in
with a
Georgia,
name.
you hit me up. Yeah, and if you're ever in Georgia, you let me know, and we'll go fishing. We'll go saltwater fishing or freshwater fishing, whatever you want.
Let's do it. I'm game.
You only invited me to
We've
eat.
got all sorts of stuff.
You only invited me over for dinner. You didn't invite me to go fishing.
Well, now, Rick, I know you probably enjoy your food a little more than fishing. I mean, let's be honest here. Come on now.
I mean,
Who doesn't love a good
fair
ham?
I am jealous of your mom's cooking, so
Yes, it's top notch. I'm actually missing it right now. I think we're having some sort of ribeye or something.
Oh man.
Ooh.
Mhm.
Wow.
Yeah. I'm
Well-
really excited. So whenever I get off here, I'm going to go over there and get some good food, hopefully.
Jealous.
All right, go for it. What's
But,
your question?
Yeah. So, what was the hardest bait to design for Z-Man, Daniel? Like, what was the hardest thing that you guys worked on? Maybe it was possibly getting the action dialed in, or maybe the pros weren't happy with it, and you guys kept on having to go back to the drawing board and redo it. What was the hardest bait?
Gosh, that's a really good question. I'm trying to think back over the last 15 years of bait development. Well, one that pops into my head is one that we never even came out with because it was
Okay.
so tough. We went through probably a dozen different prototypes of a paddle tail swim bait. We were trying to get a certain swimming action to, and we just never could get it right. And the bait looked great. It caught fish, but it was really similar in action to other baits that we had, and we ended up we kind of hit the pause button, and we're gonna pick it up again at some point. But we literally worked on this thing for 4 years and never were able to get the action right. So I mean, I think a lot of people think that you just sketch something out or 3D model something, have something made, and just roll with it. But there really is a lot of testing that goes to it, and there's a lot of things that we've done that never even see the light of day. So that was definitely the most challenging. So challenging that we never even made it work.
Oh, wow. Pretty interesting. I mean, the Hellraiser, I thought that would be one of the most hard, or one of the more hard baits to develop, because you've got the blade, you've got the weight, and you've got an ABS body. So I'm assuming you might have weight inside the ABS body. I'm not sure, but you've got the hooks hanging down there and all sorts of stuff like that. I would think would be a more difficult bait to design. But that's pretty interesting.
A Hellraiser would be a really difficult bait to design, but it was actually one of the easiest baits for us. The reason is that somebody else designed it. And it's pretty interesting who designed that bait, but it was Ron Davis who invented the very first chatterbait. That was kind of his brainchild. Mr. Davis is he's an older gentleman, and he spends most of his time cutting up sheets of stainless steel and making blades and pouring lead. And he brought this thing to me, gosh, it was probably 4 or 5 years ago. And it looked like a dowel rod that he had sanded down one side and tapered the other side, and had a couple of little eyelets screwed into it and the blade on it. It probably took him years and years of tweaking and testing, but the second I threw that thing, it's like, wow, this is action like you've never seen before. And that man is just a genius when it comes to thinking outside the box and coming up with cool stuff. So I'm sure that was a really challenging one for him, but it was a pretty easy one for us because he just brought it to us, and we just made it for him. And it was kind of interesting, actually. That was such an unconventional looking bait. We were talking about that a little bit before, and that's a bait that he had presented to a couple of other pretty large. Well, I say pretty large. I mean larger than Z-Man kind of companies that they had said, no, this thing looks too off the wall. And they didn't do it. And we said,
Yeah.
we'll give it a go. And it's been successful. So
That's super cool. And I'm glad like it's something different. Like, you know, the world of fishing right now is we've got a bunch of knockoffs floating around there, and like that bait is like different. It's got a different action, and it catches fish. It catches fish in a couple of different ways. It's a different bait, and it's a cool one for sure.
yeah, I love it. I mean, it's something fish haven't seen before. Got great action, and you know the cool part about it is, I mean, there's a lot of guys. I mean, some of my fishing buddies aren't great anglers. I hope they're not listening, but you know they can't walk the dog. You know, throwing top water for the life of them. That thing, you just wind it, and it just does its thing. That's it. Yep.
Yeah, that chrome color is my favorite for like especially schooling fish. And I was actually fishing on the bottom sometimes, like in the summer, like a spoon, and you just rip it off the bottom, kind of like a lipless crankbait or a spoon. Pretty crazy. But mine is actually really chewed up at the moment, so I need to go get a few more of them.
Cool.
But I also had this question, or maybe I should say request, for you guys to make a bigger version of your mullet swim bait that you just came out with. I want like an 8 or a 9 inch version. Because dude, that thing is wild. Like it's a sweet bait. I love the hook. Yeah, an 8 or 9 inch, that would be amazing.
All right.
Just for
Definitely
you.
noted, Brendan. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Sure thing.
It's a great little bait, and I love it. It's got a good action. It has a great hookup ratio. I love the hook system inside of it. It works well. It looks good, and it catches fish. So I just need a bigger one for maybe targeting some bigger fish. You know, weed out those little ones.
Okay. That's great feedback.
But, yeah.
I appreciate it. That's how a lot of our, you know, product additions, you know, come to be. I mean, just people asking for different stuff. We try to listen, and if you know several people are asking for the same thing, chances are it's a pretty good idea. So always great feedback.
Well, hopefully it's valuable feedback that you guys can use, and yeah. So I'll let you guys go and let you guys get back to your show. I don't want to take up too much time. I'm sure you guys have a bunch of other callers, and yeah.
Nice going to see you at ICAST again, Brandon?
Hopefully.
Cool. Looking forward to it.
Yeah. All right. I'll see you then, man.
All right. Thanks
Rick,
a lot, Brandon.
Raphie, Chris, I'll talk to y'all later.
See you. All right, see you, Brandon.
All right. That's a smart kid. He's making some great baits.
Doing some cool work. He's got some new balsas he just dropped on his Instagram page. Can I ask you, Daniel, like talking about, we got the slim Swimz.
Yeah.
We all understand like Kitex and paddle tails and things, but specifically, these are the kind of things that I geek out on it. It's like, I want something a little more subtle, not as much kick, a little bit different presentation. Who comes up with that? Like, can you tell us on that bait specifically? Do you have a recollection of how that comes into play? Exactly what Brandon was talking about. You get this feedback. What does that process look like? How long does it take for you to like, oh, we've taken our baits, we've cut the tails off, we like what this looks like. How long does that take to bring it to market after you maybe give credit of who brought the slim Swimz?
Yeah, so it really depends. The slims, you know, every bait has its own kind of story and has its own lifetime, I guess, or, you know, is born a different way. The slim Swimz is based on the very first paddle tail swim bait that I ever saw in my life. There was a bait called the Ivy Shad. Years and years ago, there was a guy here on Santee Cooper that hand poured them in his garage, and it was the first. I got my first pack of them when I was probably 6 years old, and it had that kind of slender body with that curved tail. And it's probably been, I don't know, 25 years, 30 years since I've even heard of anybody fishing an Ivy Shad, but still had a few laying around, and it was kind of that real subtle kind of action that's created by that curved tail. Was something that we wanted to duplicate because we had several people asking for a swim bait with more subtle action. So that was a 5-inch bait. The Slim Swimz is a 2.5 and a 3-inch bait. So we kind of took that design, tweaked it, made it look a little bit, you know, more modernized, but kind of kept that same tail shape. And it was, you know, so every bait has a different story. Cool. And that, you know, Slim Swimz, it's been a really popular one for us, and it's really cool to see where these things get really popular. I mean, it's a great, you know, finesse bait on a Ned rig head. Yeah. Where that bait really is taken off is in Australia. They
Yeah.
use
Oh,
that.
cool.
Australia and Malaysia are the
Interesting.
like that bait is huge there.
Interesting. Are they? Is that a barramundi bait or what? Is it a bass? Like what? What
No,
are they catching with?
they're fishing for. They have like a species of bass. Well, it's actually a
Yeah.
species of perch that they call bass. It's a
Okay.
freshwater fish, and then a number of salt. They have a brim, they call it, but it's a saltwater
Okay.
fish. Um,
That's cool.
but we do sell a lot of the bigger baits for their barramundi market. But they've got a
Yeah.
lot of some odd looking stuff. A fish called a
They got
flathead.
yeah, they have scary fish over there that look like they're going to eat
Yeah,
you. So it sounds like you get credit for this thing because this is a bait that I use on a Ned head. I use this on
yeah.
an A rig to change up when you have your A rig and you want some different presentations to have a fish key in on. The ones obviously in California we can only have 3 hooks. So that's cool that this was the bait that it sounds like you were again another baby you got to bring to the market. So I mean, thanks for doing that because it's really neat to see the different specific baits and the different subtleties. I love stuff like that. So that's really cool for me to know that story of where that came from. That's pretty neat.
Raphie.
How backed up
Either.
are the phone lines, Raphie? What do we got to punch through these, or what's our timeline looking? For
We
phone calls?
got 2 more calls
Two more.
lined up, which is actually I think perfect.
Yeah.
Okay.
Then we
All right.
let's go to it.
All right, caller.
Hey,
you're
hey,
up.
guys.
What's up, Marty?
Hey. Happy New Year's, guys.
Oh, Happy New Year, Marty.
Yeah, see, I could recognize I get the caller ID benefits.
Yeah, probably. But hey, Daniel, great having you on the show tonight. And I've been monitoring the chat a little bit, and there's someone on there, Hook Life, and he brought up a couple of good things. One is, you guys plan on adding any more scent to some of the other baits? You know, we love that scented jerk shad, and I would love to see some of that same. I don't know, maybe you guys can just bottle that scent and we can put it on our own bait, but we'd love to have it for, the craws and maybe even the TRDs to get some of that scent in there because, smallmouth bass love that stuff. And I've had luck with the scented jerk shad, but I'd love to see that scent either bottled and sold by you guys, or maybe you put it into some other baits. Is that an option?
Yeah, I think so. It's something you'll probably see coming down the pipe in terms of more baits being scented. We actually just did a scented TRD and big TRD for Tackle Warehouse that I think if it's not live on their site, it should be soon. Something that they were asking us for the same reasons that you are. The cool thing about the scent is that it's something you can already buy, and I'll tell you exactly what it is. It's ProCure Super Gel. ProCure is a scent company out of the Northwest. It's a 100% natural scent that's made from real bait fish. And they have all kind of different flavors. They have a crawfish and a shad, leech scent. We use a kind of a special blend of number of different bait fish scents. But one really cool thing about ElaZtech, aside from its durability and the fact that it floats, is the material will soak up any oil-based scents. So if you take some of that ProCure gel or any other oil-based scent and just squirt it in the bag and rub it around a little bit, leave it in there for a day or so, it's going to soak into the bait like a sponge. Then when you drop it in the water, like if you envision like taking a sponge and dipping it into some water with food coloring or some red water colored with food coloring, and then dipping that in the water, that whole sponge in the water, that red's going to come out of it. That's what the scent does. When you drop one of our baits that's scented in the water. So, and it's a really good.
Awesome.
The reason we use that scent is because it's a great product. I mean, not only does it have all the fish oils in it, but it also has amino acid feeding stimulants that they use to help get different fish to eat when they're raising them in aquaculture. So it's pretty cutting edge stuff, and it works really well. So, but that's good feedback. We're definitely looking at doing some more scented baits and continuing to explore different scent release technologies with our material as well. So you'll definitely see some cool stuff coming down the pipe.
Yeah. And so another question we have, and I'm glad this guy brought it up, and I think it's a great thing, is
a request is that you consider a wire keeper on the chatterbaits, much like you have on the finesse eye jig head. I mean,
Yep.
the finesse eye jig head, I use that a lot. I like some of the Kitech swim baits, and I always use that, the finesse eye jig heads on that. Only because it's just so good. It keeps the baits from just getting torn off. But I'm wondering if you guys would consider doing that on the chatterbait, because I think that little wire keeper on a chatterbait would be outstanding to help keep some of these baits on there. Because the chatterbait is just going crazy. Smallmouth bass love them, especially it's the micro chatter. But it's hard to keep the baits on there as a trailer without some sort of keeper.
I think that's a really good point. And we're working on, some smaller stuff, some smaller chatterbait stuff that will have that welded wire keeper on there. And I agree with you. I mean, I'm a huge fan of that keeper. I'm a little biased because, was kind of involved with the development of that concept, welding that wire on there. We've got some folks on the Z-Man team that love the keeper like me, and some that are kind of lukewarm to it. So it's often a hotly debated topic on our product development meetings, but I'm going to mention this when we get on our call tomorrow.
Well, I'll give props to you, because I'll tell you what, I absolutely love it. It's my favorite jig head across the board, just because of that keeper. It holds any bait on there. And, I got a box of jig heads, but I'll tell you, probably 80% of them are your jig heads with that keeper. So that's awesome.
That's awesome. I appreciate that. I really like that finesse eyes jig head too. I mean, that's got a good, good light wire hook. You get good hook sets, holds the bait well balanced. So
it rolls over cover real well. Yeah, it's great. Okay, so
hey Marty, before you get into your next question, Daniel, we got some people in the chat that missed the name of the scent tube that you recommended for extra scents.
Yeah, it's Procure, 2 words.
Procure. Got it.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Sure.
You got that, Gramps? All right. Yeah, you're good.
Okay, so the hula stick, I love that. I love the tentacles on it. But I tell you, I've found something recently. I like using a hula stick as a weighted wacky rig. So what I do is I take the other end of that hula stick and I actually cut more tentacles on the other end. So I have tentacles on both ends. Using that, I mean, it's just a modification. I've had a ton of luck with that. Obviously, I have to use it on the weighted head for Wacky, but just some thoughts like that that come to mind for Z-Man, that I'd love to see that hula stick with the tentacles on both ends. And then my last thing really is I'd love to see more colors in the floating worms.
Okay. Anything in particular you're looking for?
Like a watermelon red flake type thing. Some more natural colors, because I found using the reverse Wacky rig with the free weight with that floating worm is just amazing when the bass are cruising in the shallows and you can see them and you cast ahead of them and you let that floating worm, you pull it up against the weight and then you let that thing flutter to the top. They can't resist it. It's amazing. Yeah, I mean, more colors to that. I got actually 2 whole pegs worth of floating worms on my board behind me, and I really would love more colors.
Okay,
so,
good suggestion.
Daniel, thank you for being a guest on the show. What's that?
Yeah, sure thing. One thing on those floating worms, though, is you may want to check out our 7-inch finesse worms. It's the same body. It's just got a little bit of salt in the bait. It doesn't float quite as much, but use that stretch trick get a little bit of the salt out of there, and it'll float just the same as that floating worm.
Okay,
And I think we do it in watermelon red,
Hey.
some other kind of natural colors.
Okay, perfect. I'll try that.
Yeah.
So, hey, the last thing for Monster Bass is, I'm still pushing the Monster Bass Cares, trying to raise money to support veteran first responder tournaments throughout the country. I got a lot of different things lined up this year already. And please, if anyone wants to donate to the cause, where it's a separate account that you can donate money to, and then I turn around and I find these tournaments to support, and I use those funds to directly purchase Monster Bass items and send it to these vet and first responder tournaments for prizes. So please, if you feel like giving, now that it's a new year, I have a lot of neat things planned for FY24. I'm sorry, for 2024. And that's what we got going on. So please, feel free to donate to Monster Bass Cares. I know Fix will put the Monster Bass Cares logo up there sometime soon. But,
yeah, we're hoping he does.
I'm looking forward to 2024. Daniel, thank you so much. I love your product. You've made fishing so much more enjoyable for me. So thank you very much, guys. Have a good night.
Thanks, Marty. Really appreciate you and all that you do, and your support for all of our servicemen and women, and we really do appreciate you. So, maybe what we could do is we could put the URL in the chat, Raphie.
I'm trying, but it's a Venmo URL, so I am finding our blog post.
All right, there you go. Good work.
But I'm
not.
not.
Don't put it over him. Put it over Raphie. Yeah.
I'll take the Monster Bass Cares. Put it up here.
I'll take it too.
Take it for the team. I want to second the bait keeper, and that's something with the chatterbait for sure. I think it's one of those things is as you add a swim bait trailer and that tail is adding that resistance and pulling that trailer off. I think that's important. I fish with a bunch of friends and we love the chatterbaits, and that's something the bladed jig is super important on the Delta. In the last few years, like all your top anglers are bringing in their big bags and they're always talking about these bladed jigs. If you're not using a paddle tail or the boot tail with that resistance, they don't care about the bait keeper. But I love that style of trailer. And so for me, that's that little thing. When you go into your meetings, it's like, depending on the trailer, sometimes you actually need it. So that's cool that it's so fun to think about the ideas and sitting there. And I know that's extra cost in the manufacturing and welding that on. I mean, we get it as anglers once you understand the bait manufacture process, but it's cool that you even consider the feedback from people. So, we love to be able to give that feedback and to have a company that we know you're looking to make baits that work. So that's a special thing to have in the industry.
Yeah, at the end of the day, we all want the same thing. We want baits that'll catch fish, and you want baits that you're going to use and buy again, and we want baits that you're going to use and buy again. So
that's cool.
Just trying to make the best product we can, and that's why we're constantly tweaking things and the product line's evolving.
Raphie.
Yeah, I don't know how we did it. We went from one caller to now 3 callers. So we got to call the phone lines closed. But I think if we can go lightning round, we might be able to get to all
Let's
3
go lightning
callers.
round, because I'd still like to talk about this month's box briefly.
Yeah, we got a lot more show left.
Hello.
Hey guys, what's up?
I can't tell who it is. How you doing?
I'm all right. Hi, how y'all doing?
All right, lightning round is off to a slow start.
Let's do this.
All right.
All right, what's your question? And who are you? And hi, and thanks for calling.
All right, thank you much. I called to ask a question.
Okay.
Basically, I know this year here in North Carolina, I'm planning on going rock fishing this year, and I want to know what Z-Man bait I could use just as well as trailer.
Sorry, what was that? What bait that?
Saying based, I want to know what Z-Man bait can I use for rock fishing this year.
What?
Here in my hometown.
Oh, what Z-Man baits for rock fishing, and what kind of trailer?
Yeah, so
Yes,
I would I fished up there in North Carolina for rockfish this time of year, and the bait that did the best for us was the 4-inch diesel minnows. It's a paddle tail swim bait on our headlocks jig head, and they seemed to like that pearl white color. The chartreuse did really well for us a few years ago. Caught a bunch of them. Y'all have a great fishery up there for them, so that's what I would recommend.
Right. And of course, another thing, what type lures do y'all use as far as for like bass fishing this time of the year? As far as like being cold.
Yeah, I would in the cold weather, I like a smaller kind of finesse presentation. They're probably not feeding a whole lot, so that Ned rig, the TRD on the shroom's head, or a small swim bait like that Slim Swims that Chris was showing off will work really well. But in the next couple of months here, as we start moving towards the pre-spawn, that's going to be chatterbait time for you. That's when I pull out that chatterbait and start throwing that thing around.
Okay. All right. Well, that's all I had to ask as far as like questions wise, and nice meeting y'all, and y'all keep doing what y'all do.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for calling.
Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
All right, our last two callers are not known for their brevity.
Oh, well.
Uh-oh.
What do we got?
I don't know how I'm supposed to take that.
Jeremy put me up. Jeremy put me up to that.
Always.
Anyway, what's up, everybody? Gramps here. Just have I got to call in on my favorite live of the year when you have the man, the myth, the legend from Z-Man on, because we all know how much I love some Z-Man. First, Daniel, got to say you got to love starting the year out when you have Gussie winning the Classic on a Z-Man product. I mean, it doesn't get much better than that.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Couldn't have happened to a nicer guy either. Great guy.
Dude, he is so awesome. He's so easy to talk to. We were down there, and between the kayak anglers down there fishing the Kayak Classic piece of it, you got Matt Ball, who's a great rep from Z-Man as well, and then having Gussie turn around and put the smack down on him. And it's just a great representation all the way around. I love, I'm a big fan. I've been hanging with Monster Bass for a few years now, and have always loved the Z-Man Takeover box. I hadn't realized that you hadn't covered the box yet, because I was like, hey, Rick, we need to do a Gramps box where you take this box and add about, 3 or 4 more of my favorite things. And then you have, you got to have a Mag Fatty Z. You got to have, the Z-Man jigs in there, because they just come through everything. And but enough of all that. I really had to stop and talk about, because I just got back from like a whirlwind of kayak tournament season where we fished the KBF championships and then had the Knucklehead Bass Fishing Series right after that. And I'm telling you what, I got my hand on some of the Evos and the Chatter Spikes. Man. I'm going to have some big giveaways, because the Evos are perfect. So many different colors, bladed, colored blades. The hook keeper is amazing, and the Chatter Spike. I've almost cut up different baits trying to make something like that with like a jerk shad and thing like that. But you guys knocked it out of the park with that Chatter Spike. I mean, just had to throw kudos. They catch smallies, they catch largies, and they catch everything in between. So I had to throw those props out there for such a good product. And when you just think you can't get any more or better chatterbait, I've got too many jackhammers and stealth blades, and Mini Max was I just Mini Max it most of the year, and then you come out and smack it with an Evo, and I can't even comprehend and to think what's next. Even though I know I got to get my hands on some of the 4-inch Hellraisers, because everybody's trying to tell me, I can't catch nothing on the Hellraiser. Well, I go out in a day last year in the fall and go for literally 8 hours of not getting bit. And as the sun's going down, I'm like, let me grab this ridiculous looking thing. And it took me one cast before I realized the action But then I turned around in 35 minutes and caught like 8 fish in a row and ended the day with a 5-pounder with the sun going down. It was incredible. So, and then I went to Kentucky Lake during one of the championships and caught my PB Smalley on the thing. And so, yeah, I'll never not throw the Hellraiser because I truly enjoy that thing. So I got to get my hands on some smaller ones, but I had to call in tonight because you were on, and I'll let you guys get to the next caller. But, yeah, I always have to call in when you're on because you guys I love Z-Man. If there was any one single brand, and I work with other brands too with my channel, but if there was any one brand, if I had to have and only could have one brand of bait, Z-Man to me is the most versatile, covers everywhere from the top of the water column all the way to the bottom, and does everything I need. I would fish with Z-Man. So keep up the great work. You continue to knock it out of the park every year.
No offense taken, Gramps. Thank you.
he's fired up. I love his passion. He's loving it. That's so cool.
That's awesome. I love hearing that kind of stuff. And, y'all asked at the beginning of the show what the most rewarding part of working for Z-Man is, and hearing stuff like that is that's it. Somebody catching their PB smallmouth on one of our baits, or they love the stuff. It helps them catch more fish. So I really appreciate the support. It really means a lot.
That's cool.
Yeah, because so if you came out with an ElaZtech tube, then I would be the happiest dude in the world.
Gramps tubes. I'm telling you, they don't
Stay
sleep on the
tuned.
tubes.
Stay tuned.
I like it.
Yep.
Oh.
Well, tubes. Anybody who watches my channel knows tubes are my life. But yeah, if that happened, I don't need nothing else. All right, gents. Good show. I'll get back and be listening in. Thanks.
Thank you, Gramps.
Breaking news.
All
right. Was that our last caller?
No, this is our last caller.
All right, great.
Hello, and hello. This is Mr. Gambit. After that sermon of good fishing talk for the last hour, you gotta say amen, and amen to the Messiah of Lord making right now that's in the live tonight. We appreciate Daniel Nussbaum when he comes in. He knows that there's so many bass fishing on the weekend, and the guys who cash those checks every single week when the season starts, they think and drop to their knees because of the Ned rig or the chatterbait or the Hellraiser or something they thrown at Z-Man and help them catch a check. Officially, we will say amen to the Messiah of the lure making. And that's what I'm here to say. After Graham said what he did, we appreciate it.
Wow,
Daniel.
Hellraiser to Messiah, the topwater chatterbait.
I kind of want that. I want that on a
It's
hoodie.
all levels of the spiritual column.
Yeah.
This is incredible.
That's what I'm saying. Now, all we can hope for is Rick
I should have said holy water
product to do a free bait Friday and throw out some Z-Man stuff this year. Already, everybody's going to be praying for some Z-Man products when Rick says, I got a deal for you guys. Just know Rick's going to throw them out with his VIP stuff, so we appreciate what Rick does. So all you can do is hope and pray that Rick will say, okay, there's some Z-Man stuff we're going to do this week. You better be on that VIP list. If Rick sent it out, you better be ready.
Can I take a moment and just say I'd like to wish you a happy birthday?
Thank you, man. I had a good time. I had that steak and lobster, man. It was all good, and I celebrated my one of my son's birthdays yesterday at the Korean barbecue. So we chowed down yesterday. So we got birthdays this month. I got a brother that has got a birthday this month too. So basically, it's like a birthday month. I've enjoyed myself, guys. It's been fun. I'm blessed at my age, celebrate another birthday, being thankful. That's why when you're thankful in this world, guys, and you get a guy like Daniel Nussbaum coming into the channel and talking to you, say thankful. Because you got to be thankful when you catch that bass and you haven't caught anything out there and you pick up a Z-Man product and you catch a bass, say amen. That's all you can say.
Amen.
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 Amen. Oh, Mr. Gambit. I love it.
Happy belated, Gambit.
Yeah.
All right, man. You guys take care. I love what you guys are doing. Looking forward to all the fun stuff that's going on happening in 2024. And Daniel, you keep doing what you're doing, man. The name of the bait. Everybody has something to talk about each year with a name. Keep up that good work, my man. Other than walking on water, that's the only thing that Jesus got topped on. Take care.
All right. See you
Thank
later.
you. I love it.
We love you. We love you, Gambit.
The Messiah of lure making.
Yeah.
That's a new one.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's a little long, but it'll look sweet on your business cards.
Look good on the back of the jersey.
Yeah.
I'm here. I've got an appointment to see the Messiah of lure making. All right. Well, I want to thank everyone that took the time to call in. They were really great questions, and anytime you're willing to take an hour out of your day to spend it with us, I truly do appreciate it, and definitely have a lot of love for the Monster Bass community. So thank you guys. As you guys know, we started the show. We talked about the fact that it is our favorite time of the year. It is the Z-Man Takeover, and last year around this time, I challenged Davey and I said, let's. When we put this together, let's make it the best one we've ever done. And I said, if I had a secret wish, it would be to have the jackhammer and the Hellraiser in one box. And, that was the challenge. And then the other challenge was, how do we do this without putting a duplicate in the box, right? Because, we're big fans of Z-Man. And, we just didn't want to do duplicates. So we got together with Daniel, and he put together this configuration. So I'm going to run down it. I'm going to run through it with all the guys, and I'm going to show you what's going to come in the box. Daniel picked the pairings, and I just like to hear from him as to, obviously, talk to me about the pairings, why, and then from Chris, because, he's our resident, he's on the water more than I am. So I'd love to know his thoughts on these as well. So, we kicked it off with, we've been talking a lot about the chatter spike, and I've been playing with it all day. The chatter spike is a trailer with the jackhammer, and I obviously Firecraw's a hot color in the start of the season. So Daniel, talk to me about this combination.
Yeah, I don't think the jackhammer needs any introduction or explanation. I mean, like I said before, I think that bait's probably won more money in the last 5 years than anything else. It's been one of our best sellers. And, for the pre-spawn, it really, early season, doesn't get any better than the Firecraw color. Mm-hmm. That's why we went with that color. And the Chatter Spike is our newest chatterbait trailer. The thing that I like about the Chatter Spike is it's got that really thin pintail. I think a lot of people, paddle tail or boot tail trailers work great on chatterbaits, but I think they may be a little bit overused. And I personally like a trailer that, especially the larger paddle tail trailers, you don't want a trailer that's going to overwhelm the action of the blade. And that's why, it has that really subtle tail. And the blade is going to create action in that thin pintail. So it's got a meaty body that kind of adds some bulk to the profile, but just a lot of action, a lot of vibration. It's going to get down a little bit better, which can be important, earlier in the year, dirty water, that sort of thing. So I think that's just a winning combination that I think you'll see a lot of guys in tournaments using that exact same setup this year. Firecraw jackhammer with that chatter spike trailer.
Yeah.
I'm going to say my feedback quickly is that spike does not compete with the action of the blade. It's huge. You can fish it quicker. It's a subtle difference. I think forward-facing sonar can play into that, where you can see a fish be called from distance and come up to a chatterbait. But if there's too much movement, too many things moving on the trailer, that bait right there with that spike, that's the fluke that I've always put on the back. And now in your plastic, it's going to last bite after bite. Home run on that one for sure. So great job on that bait. Perfect pair.
Love it. All right. Another one. Speaking of the Bassmaster Classic, the Streaks 3.75 inch. And then we're pairing that with the Willow Vibe.
Yeah, that's a great little kind of finessey combination right there. That Streaks with the Willow Vibe. The two pair perfectly together. I think one of the keys with the Willow Vibe is, we talked about it a little bit with the jackhammer just a minute ago, but that willow vibe can be a little bit more finicky than a normal chatterbait, just with the shape of the blade. It's got, super erratic vibration, but you got to have a straight tail bait on the back. And that little Streaks 375 is an awesome bait. On the back of that, like I was saying earlier, you can, wind it really fast, even break the surface with the blade. It's great for schooling fish. You can kind of slow roll it. It'll rise up a little bit, stay high in the water column, or it's great for shallow water. But in deeper water, you can kind of yo-yo that bait, just kind of pump the rod a little bit, bring that bait up and let it flutter down to the bottom. Really pressured fish will hit it. Great cold water bait. Just a, good, super versatile combination. I like the two of those together.
Amazing. All right.
Again, home run.
Yeah.
I want to add that bait is awesome for a drop shot too. That trailer, so good all by itself, flicking it, moving it. The willow, I'm a fan of blade baits, as everyone knows, and talking about the erratic fall and that willow blade as that thing's going down, you'll get a lot of fish to follow that thing and the strikes on the drop. So your yo-yo presentation, wintertime, slow micro presentations, huge success with that willow bait off the bottom, yo-yoing it back. Again, home run. I mean, 2 for 2 so far. So let's keep going.
Well, this won't be very hard. Because again, we, one of the baits that I said I really wanted, and it's funny because Gramps called in, and last year at this time, Gramps was like, the Hellraiser came out, and Gramps was like, everyone's like, I don't know, what is this thing? And Gramps said the same thing, and then he threw it, and then he made that video where he was like just crushing fish, and so obviously we're talking about the Hellraiser. I mean, there's really no bait that's really ever looked anything like this. And clearly a master designed this, right? Someone that definitely toys around with baits all day, manufacturing or making these things and designing these things. Because I've never seen a blade like this that's got the weight on it, and it's just a unique bait.
Yeah, it's a real outside the box kind of deal right there. And I have an appreciation for you think about it, the chatterbait, which was invented by the same guy, Ron Davis. I mean, that was outside the box and very unconventional at the time. And this is too, but the one thing that they have in common is they both are just fish catchers. Mm-hmm. And what Mr. Davis was setting out to do with this bait was to create a top order version of the chatterbait. And it's one of those things. I mean, you look at it, it's an odd looking bait, but you really don't get it and get what the bait does until you see it in the water. That nose is just going back and forth, spitting water. It kind of sits at almost a 45-degree angle when you're winding it in. So that blade is subsurface. So not only do you have that splash on top from the nose, but you got that blade flashing around and vibrating. You got the feathered treble on the back. And what's the number one problem fishing topwaters? I mean, the number one problem that you run into, it's, you're missing fish, right? Mm-hmm. Well, that thing, you've got the blade underwater. It's a much better strike target. You got the feathered treble right on the blade. So it's, in my opinion, one of the greatest things about the Hellraiser is the hookup ratio. It just blows any other top order bait out of the water. And it's just something fish haven't seen before. Super easy to fish. Like I was saying before, I got a bunch of buddies that, frankly, they're not very good at walking the dog, but I just hand them a rod with the Hellraiser because all you got to do is chunk it out and just wind it in. Doesn't matter if you're, crawling, it'll pop right up to the top, or if you're burning it fast, it'll still, have really good action. So just a really dialed in design. And I think it's just an awesome thing to have in this box because there's going to be people that are just going to be blown away by this thing when they fish it.
I can't wait to, I've not thrown it. And that's the thing. A lot of times I think we overthink things. We need to have things that are hard. I'm a huge fan. If I can topwater and fish a spook, that's like my favorite way of fishing for topwater fish. To give my children or friends a bait that they can throw and reel and have instant success. That's bass fishing. That's sharing our love, the joy, the success. It's like a fish looking at that. It's like, what is that? A backwards floating chatterbait pencil popper? Like, I don't know what it is. I have to eat it. You did it. I mean, I've watched videos. I watch people's excitement to have a bait that works. What else do you want? You nailed it when you said we all want the same thing. I want a bait I can hand to somebody that does not know how to fish and get it out there and have them have the joy of getting a fish to the boat. Crushed it. So excited.
Amazing. And then last but not least, we've, and we talked a lot about these today, right? We've got, I don't know if you guys can see this.
Look at that smolder, Rick.
Yeah.
All right. And it's got the keeper on it welded on that we talked about, that Marty was talking about, and we pair this with, you want to call it, Raphie?
Is that the big turd?
Big turd.
Big turd.
TRD.
That's just a fish catcher right there. You know, we do the finesse TRD. That's that 2.75 inch size. Personally, I like that 4-inch size a lot. Just a little bit bigger profile. You know, you catch a lot of big fish with the finesse TRD. You catch a lot of small fish with it too. You catch more big fish and fewer small fish by just sizing up just a little bit. I know it's still a really finessey bait, just not quite as finessey, but just, you know, straight up fish catcher. I mean, you pair those two. That really doesn't even matter. I mean, there's no wrong way to fish a Ned rig. That's what's cool about it. You can drag it on the bottom. You can hop it on the bottom. You can swim it. The second you stop it, that tail's going to float up. And like I said before, just give it that stretch just to get a little bit of the salt out of it, limber it up, and give you that spongy texture that those fish are going to hang on to, and just going to hammer them with it.
Yeah, it's really amazing. Though, you know, the more I've played with it, like it really does change the whole feel and the whole movement of the bait.
Yeah, and that was one thing that, you know, when we came out with the whole Ned rig series, the TRD, that Ned and his buddies that were fishing this stuff, you know, they were using our zinkers, which is a heavily salted bait, and they would soak them before they fished, and just to get all that salt out of there, because they were convinced that really limber, spongy texture made a huge difference.
Sure.
And I mean, you know, these are guys that go out with the goal of catching 101 bass in 4 hours, and they do it pretty frequently. So I'm going to listen to those guys when they tell me that something works, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
And I was going to say the big bait, having that bigger turd, it's so fun when I get to go out and cheat because I get to bring my family or I'm with my wife. We'll cut those baits up. So we'll have somebody fishing the really big one, and then we'll chop one in half, maybe 2-inch, and presenting the differences that are sometimes much bigger and much smaller. That's another little secret to really pinpoint what the fish are looking for. And it's really hard to make the small Ned bigger. It's really easy to take the big one and make it smaller. So that's just another thing, is when you're making that purchase and you know you're not sure exactly what the fish want, you get that bigger bag and you got yourself covered. So great bait. Can't say nothing.
Nothing brings out or accentuates yoga pants than a nice turd cutter, right, Chris?
I don't know if Daniel knows, but Raphie missed a sponsor moment when you dropped. So Daniel, Raphie, fortunately or unfortunately, my wife fishes a lot in athletic clothing. She's beautiful. She wears yoga pants. So Raphie wants to be my fishing buddy. And if, you know, last couple shows, he dropped his drawers and was wearing yoga pants. It should have said Z-Man on the booty.
It should have said Z-Man.
That's next.
Or at least big turd.
Z-Man branded yoga pants.
Yeah, I'm telling you. So if you want somebody to wear the Z-Man yoga pants, fishing a yoga pants,
Ryan Latimer.
got you covered.
Yeah.
Ryan
Latimer.
B-Lat's my guy. I got it.
Yeah, right.
I got to send him a thank you card, so it's good.
There you go.
That's great. I love it.
Man. Well, listen, Daniel, I want to really just take a moment to thank you for you know, your support of Monster Bass. You've been a supporter since the very beginning, and we really appreciate it. It really means a lot that each and every year we get to do this, and so I just want to say thank you, because it does really mean a lot.
I mean, it's a cool thing that y'all are doing. We're glad to be involved from the start, and to have the opportunity to put together some of our favorites and expose more people to them. I can't thank you enough. And hopefully there'll be some folks catching their PBs on these baits, and we'll be hearing about it soon, because that's what it's all about for all of us, I think, right?
Yeah, for sure. For sure. So I know it's getting late on the west or on the East Coast, so we're gonna say goodbye and let you get back to your family. But again, thank you so much for being on the show, and we truly appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Daniel. Good seeing you again.
Thanks, Daniel.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's good to connect.
All right. Bye. So there you have it, guys. Like,
That was great.
Yeah. If you don't have a Monster Bass box, now's your opportunity. And there's so many reasons why. Not only are all these baits, like, they're paired to go together, but if you've been afraid to drop $15.99 on a jackhammer, and I get it, it's a lot of money, but you're going to see why it's worth every single dollar. And it's going to come included in this box. And then, of course, the Hellraiser, right? Like, it's a unique bait, and probably not one that you'd go to the store just to pick up. But you can rest assured, like, it's in every Platinum Series box, and there'll be a video showing you how to use it. I assure you, I'm probably going to show you Gramps' video too. So it's a
crazy looking bait.
It's a crazy looking bait. Like, cool. Yeah. So I look forward to trying that. So anyway, guys, that was a
The
great
Messiah,
show.
I tell you, they have the Messiah of bait making. That's pretty funny.
Yeah.
What a
Tackle
cool guy
all
to
columns of the holy water.
Yeah,
the holy
all columns of the holy water, to know the history of where he came from, to leave law behind, to move back into fishing and his passion. Right? I mean, really, how incredible is that? That I don't even know. Words can't really describe it. You can tell he loves what he does. It's really fun and rewarding to be involved with brands. And I'm going to give some credit back to you, Rick, to be a person that's in the bait business, to still collaborate with other brands, knowing you're both building brands and business awareness and sharing the success with each other. That's not normal in the business world. And I think that's my enjoyment of being connected to Monster Bass. You're not competing. We all have these things, but you're working together for the same betterment of fishing and putting fish in people's boats. That's such a special thing to really understand, to be connected to others in the same industry.
For sure.
We're all going to the same place. That's awesome. So,
and there's room for all of us to, there's room for all of us to win. You know?
Heck yeah. No,
so
that's a huge message. If I could share something with the world, I mean, stop competing against each other, work together. What a message. That's awesome.
Raphie, who won the chat?
Caro won the chat, and not in the way that I thought that she would. When Daniel started talking about yoga pants, all of a sudden the chat lit up about last year. But then Gramps called in, and Caro dropped the comment, "Oh, Gramps just peed his pants a little bit," and he's so right. Has to win. Oh,
there you go.
Yeah, congrats, Caro.
All
you
right.
finally won one.
All right. Email us your info at marketing@monsterbass.com. Make sure you give him your address, even though he probably knows how to get it.
I was going to say, I don't know who said it, but it just went by really fast. But Raphie, congrats, because you didn't hang up on anyone. I mean, I think we should mention that.
Yeah.
Phones worked. You guys.
That was also Caro.
Yeah.
All right. So
it's on fire, this show.
There you go.
That's pretty good.
And then I think last but not least, like, I'd like to give a big shout out to Fixie. So Fixie became a dad, and he's now getting to experience life in a whole new way. And we're going to end this show so he can get home to his wife and his son, Ethan, the new guy, and so he can take care of business. So, Fixie, thanks for all you're doing, and congratulations on becoming a dad.
Yeah, thank you.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome. All right, guys. Well, listen, thanks for tuning in. We appreciate all of you. And like I said, if you want a box stacked full of the best Z-Man baits, hook yourself up with a Monster Bass box today. Love you guys. We'll see you soon. Bye.
Sweep the leg. Yes.